This is Sammy. He's a thoroughbred off the track. I think he's 8 or 9 years old. Nice horse. Um, I've worked with him for a few days now, and his real issue is he thinks he's in charge of everything. He has the entire weight of the world on his shoulders. He's got to deal with everything on his own. So as we continued on, he was getting himself more and more worked up. So I decided at some point I was going to stop him by leading him into the wall, which I've done with him before, and he was fairly familiar with it. But even then, he decided, oh, he's going to race out between me and the wall, which would be sort of normal, but not acceptable for horse in training. After that, he comes back to his safe spot, which is he approaches me slowly, and I reassure him and let him know, hey, whenever you're not certain, you're always allowed to come to me, tell me your problems, and we'll work it out together. And so we're doing that. And he shouldn't be this excited, but he is. Oh well. So I stop him again. Again, he comes to me for his safe spot, which I've taught him in the last few days. Actually, that's one of the first things I always teach a horse. It's incredibly important that they know that I'm a safe person to be with, and whenever they're not sure, they can always just slow down, come up to me slowly, and I'm not going to get after them for doing that. I'm going to give them a little reassurance, pat. We'll both take a breath, and then we'll move on from there. The way I teach that is I get them to stop, and then I walk out to them slowly, give them a pet, and you do that after not very long. They start to figure it out, and they'll stop and come up to me slowly, and we'll regroup. But getting back to the matter at hand, you'll see that isn't working today, that he's actually getting himself more worked up, not less worked up as we go on. Now, a lot of people get frustrated when things start to go a little backwards in training, and they get worried about it, and they might want to chase the horse around till he's covered in sweat and out of breath and barely able to move, or they might get after him with the whip and beat him up and make him too afraid to do anything. But I figure he's just being a horse, and if he's going to give it up to me, he's going to want to know a little assurance that it's going to be okay. And so that's what I do, and I find a technique that's going to work easy for him and easy for me. So what I decided to do is go back to my using the wall to stop and turn him. Except instead of stopping and turning him once every couple, 3 circles, you see I'm just going to do half a circle and stop him and turn him like that. And I'm just flinging the lunge line up a little bit just to sort of let him know something's coming. There he is again. Stop. And observe that what he's doing is once he hits the wall, he sort of turns and he comes back and he's cutting the curve around me a little bit close. I have to shoo him away from me a little bit. That's what I'm doing there with the lunge line. Just don't get so close to me, son. There he's turning to me. Well, this time he's saying, hey, I need a little reassurance, so I got to get organized and get a little pet on the nose. But again, notice that he's going to go to the wall. He's going to turn, start coming around. So he isn't really being submissive. I sort of put him in a spot where he didn't have too many options. But he hasn't really given in. There he's slowing down a little bit. That's a good thing. And notice he's walking to the next spot. He's starting to say, well, there's not much point in running. Come on, let's go. Oh, he says he needs another little bit of assurance, so we give it to him. And watch what happens this time as he comes up to the wall. Instead of stopping and turning on his own, he just stops there, stands and waits for me. The deed is done. He has just given it up. Now watch how he comes away from the wall with me, back out to the circle. Well, I guess I'm still close to the wall, but I'm not stopping him. And you notice he doesn't get all panicked because he's trapped between me and the wall there. He just meanders on along. And this is the way you always want your horses to be when you're working with them. You say, okay, just go wandering off or go take a break walk. This is the way they should do it. Head out, relaxed. The tail is relaxed. The tempo is relaxed. Everything about him says, "Yep, I'm ready. Let's go ahead. Let's do something else now." So the something else that I've done is created an outside rein. Just to give you a quick background, the lunge line that I make, that I use, has hooks on both ends. And so I had been using it with just one end going through the inside ring over the pole to the outside bit ring. And I like to lunge that way because it only puts pressure on the corners of the lips. It doesn't, punish the bars of the mouth and the tongue. And I think it's the easiest way to do it. What I've done here is the lunging sur single that I use, I have an extra ring on the top. It's big enough for the lunge line to slide through. So I take the other end of the lunge line, which also has a hook on it, trigger snap on it, and I take it through that ring on the top of the sur single and also hook that to the outside rein. And what that allows me to do is use an outside rein instead of the wall to ask him to stop. And here we're just doing, trot walk transitions with it. You see he's staying calm and easy, but I like to teach a horse how to be ridden before I get on him and try to ride him. Now, the advantage of this system is it lets me use an outside rein while I'm lunging him and get him used to that. Uh, the disadvantage of this particular setup is I'm counterbending him slightly to the outside, and I'll fix that the next time I work with him because I'll bring both reins inside and outside through that central ring, and then the reins will be pretty much where my hands are when I'm riding. So I'll be able to adjust his bend and get him used to the outside rein and do all kinds of fun things with him with this setup. And here I am switching the reins around, so I'm going to be working him the same way, only to the left in a moment. And as we start out, you can see he tends to go a little too fast. And then when I try and slow him down with the outside rein, he stops. And he wants to go too fast, and then he stops. But pretty soon he starts to catch on a little bit. And he's starting to get the idea of it. Just let me rate his speed or control his tempo and speed with the outside rein instead of having to run him into a wall, which is always a good idea. And by the end of the ride, you'll notice we're on a smaller circle. For those of you who have read my books, you might notice this is almost his natural circle. And you see he's getting a little tempo. And he's learning to stretch out into the hand a little bit more. So that's a good day. Good day's work for him. So I'm going to try and be a little more regular about posting videos. And if you want to follow his progress, be sure and click the subscribe button and the little bell, and you'll be notified when I put another video up.